Hi, I'm Harry, and my channel is Fog of War, and I am a wargamer. This is my response video to the I Am A Wargamer challenge. Basically, if you haven't heard about it, Wargamer Viking, a YouTuber, issued a challenge, and he asked people to make response videos to the challenge and to answer 5 questions. So this is my response to his challenge, and I'll go through and answer the questions. So I'm a wargamer. I'm actually a returning wargamer after about 30 years. In the 80s I played a lot of things like Battletech and modern micro armor, those sorts of things. But I got away from that, ended up with a career in teaching and media. But I've always still been interested in military history and modelling. But so let's go on to the first question. So the first question is, what inspired you to do YouTube? So I'm a historical wargamer, and a couple of years ago I got into Flames of War, but I had nobody to play with. I watched a lot of YouTube video content from people like Beasts of War and Herbert Epraderp, lots of people making videos about Flames of War, the game, the rules, miniatures, painting, that sort of stuff. There was a lot of stuff out there. What got me into it was I looked at all of that stuff and decided I could make a contribution as well. My aim was to be able to build the sort of content that I was looking for when I was first starting out. Now, I'd already done some YouTube stuff before that. A few years ago I was playing a video game called Strike Fighters as flight simulator, combat flight simulator, and I had done a few tutorials about radar guided missiles and IR homing missiles for that particular game. So I'd already done some stuff on YouTube, and it just seemed logical to take that into my new interest with Flames of War and to make some content based around that. So basically YouTube is a way for me to connect with people about Flames of War and gaming, because I actually don't have a lot of people to play with where I live. I live in the country. So it's a way for me to do my hobby when I've got nobody to play with. And it's a great way to connect to, there's a great Flames of War community, and there's a lot of activity on Facebook, and I'm hoping that my YouTube videos will be of interest to people who are interested in the game. So the second question was, where do you want your channel to go? I'm just starting out. So Fog of War is just a few months old. I've only just started doing stuff for Fog of War. I started planning it in about January, buying equipment, ordering stuff in, and finally launched it in April, and I've got about 20 videos up now. I'm still trying to build an audience at this stage, so it's still a case of trying to figure out perfecting the content. What do I want to talk about? How do I want to talk about it? So I'm still trying out new things. I'm a bit limited by budget. I'm shooting on broken iPhones that I managed to beg and borrow from people. But I've got some microphones and lights and other things that are worthwhile having. And yeah, I hope to make good sort of professional content. So that's where I want my channel to go. I want to build a nice community, have people interested in the content I'm doing, and make stuff that people want to see. The Flames of War community is not huge, but I really hope to connect with the community and have them interested in my content. So the third question is, where do you see your channel in 5 years? That's kind of a hard one, particularly since I'm just starting out. So at the moment I'm still really looking to build an audience and consolidate what I'm doing. I would hope that I would end up being a bit more polished and professional. I have a background in media, and I've worked in video before, but this is still fairly new to me, and I'm still working on polishing it up, making it more professional. I hope I might end up having more time to devote to it, because I spend a lot of my time working. So part of launching Fog of War was to give me something else to do and another interest outside of work. So I'm hoping I'd be able to devote more time to it. The Flames of War community is still pretty small, but I really want to end up with a good fan base who enjoys my content. So that's what I would really be looking to do. I've got a few subscribers at the moment, but I would hope to build that to a good number who are interested in looking at my content on a regular basis. I would also like to build a relationship with manufacturers. I do a lot of reviews, things like stuff from the Plastic Soldier Company and Zvezda and other manufacturers for 15mm tabletop historical wargaming. I'd like to get to know them and have a relationship with them and be able to put out news and upcoming product features and those sorts of things. So that would be good. Another dream I had when I was setting up Fog of War is it would be really nice to have a group of people who were contributing to the channel, not just have it be my particular channel. My interest is Flames of War and historical wargaming, but it would be nice to have people who are interested in 40k or Infinity or other game systems, bolt action, who would like to make stuff and contribute to the Fog of War channel. That would be great. So that's where I hope that I'll be in a few years' time. So the fourth question was, what advice would you give to someone setting up a YouTube channel? I've got a few bits of advice here. First up, I would say network and use the medium effectively. So do things like link your videos to a Facebook page or notify people when they come out. Find some mechanism to connect with your audience and make sure that people are being notified of when and where your content's coming out. Keywords and descriptions are interesting. I'm still working on those. So when you name your video and when you're writing your description, to make sure that you use words people will be searching for. I've been tweaking that a bit on Fog of War, and it does actually make a difference. So it's worthwhile spending the time to look at that. Buy some good equipment, decent microphones, some lights. There's a lot of reasonably cheap equipment, LED panels and things like that. And they just make that extra bit of difference in making your video product look a bit more professional and a bit more slick. Pick a release schedule that works for you. When I initially started Fog of War, I was trying for a release every week, but I'm a one-man band. I like to produce reasonably good stuff. I sometimes stick to once a week, but I really think a more realistic schedule is once a fortnight. Pick a release schedule that you can keep up with. Remember, this is meant to be fun, so it shouldn't end up being a rod for your own back, where it's difficult or you're working hard or what have you. If you are finding that, somebody else in his video response said, take a break. Don't give up, don't go away, don't completely abandon it, but take a break if you need one and then come back when you've got stuff to do. Make lots of videos was another piece of advice that somebody else had in one of their video responses, and I think that's good. Make a lot of stuff and the audience will build itself. So make the best stuff that you can, make lots of it, and post it up. My rule that I had for myself is do one thing every day to advance your project. Doesn't matter if that's small. Work a little bit on a script, research some images, look at something. Just do at least one thing every day to advance your project, and that way it just keeps going forward and you'll get stuff done. Now, I have a background in media and I've seen an awful lot of very long videos that probably didn't need to be. If you've got a 25 or a 40-minute product review, it's probably a bit long. So I would suggest learn to use editing to tell your story effectively. Not to leave stuff out, not to make it less of a product, but to actually tell the story effectively, but tell it concisely and quickly, okay? And probably the last piece of advice is to understand copyright. You will probably at some point want to monetize your YouTube channel, and if you do that, you're going to need to be using non-copyrighted materials, or if you are using copyrighted materials, to have clearance to use them. So you can't just grab somebody's music. There's plenty of royalty-free music out there. I have started using images from the Imperial War Museum because they actually have a non-commercial use license that allows you to use that material. So yeah, just make sure that you understand what the issues are with copyright, and to make sure that the content that you're making doesn't infringe anybody's copyright, and then you'll be fine to start monetizing your videos. So the final question that Wargamer Viking posed was, what would you add to improve YouTube for the community? Now I don't really know. Some people have said things like bring back video responses as comments. Other people have talked about being able to replace your video if there's a problem with it rather than having to re-upload it. But I could see some problems with abuse of that, of people sticking up completely different content or inappropriate content. So I can see why YouTube probably disabled that. So I'm not particularly sure what I'd like to see. It might be worth having a little bit more stuff that can build communities. So I mean, you can search for content, but there's no way to group all the Warhammer 40,000 content, or all the Flames of War content, or all the bolt action content. So maybe some way to group those, to create networks. That would probably be the number one thing I could think of. So those are my responses to Wargamer Viking's challenge. So I hope some of that was illuminating for you. Now what I meant to do is to tag 3 other people. I'm actually pretty new, so I actually don't have anybody in particular that I would like to tag. I mean, I would like to see a video response from somebody like Lindy Beige, or hear from some of the guys from the Beasts of War. That would be great, but they already have large established followings and they don't really need a shout out from me. I think I'd probably throw it open. I'm really small and nobody tagged me. I just decided to do my own response. So I guess what I'm going to do here is invite anybody who's got a small channel to join in. Do the I'm a Wargamer challenge, and I look forward to seeing your response. Thank you.